Let's down to Ross Grimsley, the former Red, slowly making his way toward the Olympic Stadium mound. This, as we mentioned earlier, will be his second straight start against Cincinnati. He was on the mound earlier this week at Riverfront Stadium in a no-decision appearance, but the Reds whacked him around pretty good in the 4 1/3 innings in which Grimsley pitched. The Reds scored 6 runs off of him, 5 of them earned on 7 hits. And George Foster was a man who dealt the lethal blows to Grimsley with a couple of home runs, driving in 5 runs. Reds went on to win that game 8-6, but the defeat went to right-hander Stan Bonson working in relief. So the only decision we've had this season in 3 starts against Grimsley was a victory back on the 7th of May at Riverfront Stadium. 12-6 his record. Making his 22nd start of the year, he has 12 complete games and an earned run average of 3.13. Of course, the tension and pressure, if you will, continues to mount on the man right now standing off to the left of home plate. Pete Rose, who last night, with an infield single in the 4th inning at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia against Jim Cott to extend his hitting streak to 33 consecutive games. And, of course, Rose now, if he can get a base hit tonight, will enjoy the second longest batting streak in the history of the National League and would then put him only 3 away from tying the league record held by Tommy Holmes, while the Boston Braves setting the record back in 1945. So things continue to get extremely interesting, but that normally is the case with Mr. Rose as they flash up the hitting streaks, the longest hitting streaks in Major League Baseball history, on the big message board out beyond the center field wall, and Pete gets ready to climb in and get this one started against Ross Grimsley. Pete batting .305. The league leader in base hits with 120. He's homered 4 times this season and has driven in 27 runs. Against Grimsley, Pete has been up 8 times and has had a couple of hits. Grimsley, into that rocking chair motion of his, delivers, and Rose bounces one up the middle. That's into center field for a base hit. For the 13th time this season, he has led off the first inning with a base hit. And he has now run his hitting streak to 34 consecutive ball games.
Amazing man, I'll tell you. Pete getting a standing ovation here in the Olympia in Montreal as the picture is flashed on the scoreboard in straightaway center field with the number 4 to 34 beside it. So Pete, you can't say that they don't love him in the National League. That boos, all those boos are just admiration, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
The man is just an unbelievable athlete.
Here's Ken Griffey now as he tries to bunt his way aboard, pops it up to the mound. Grimsley makes the catch and turns to throw to first, but Rose was able to get back in time. So Ross Grimsley has thrown 2 pitches. Pete Rose is single to center. Ken Griffey has popped up bunting, and that'll bring up Joe Morgan. Well, I guess Pete better get pretty much used, or is already used to the fact by now that he's been getting standing ovations night after night after night for about 10 days or so. First from his fans at Riverfront, and then in Philadelphia, and now here in Montreal tonight. Joe Morgan batting .257. With 8 homers and 56 RBIs, Grimsley looks to first base where Rose has a short lead against Tony Perez. Now the pitch to Morgan, and it's over the plate, but below the knees for a ball. While the Reds come off of having split 2 games in Philadelphia, Montreal comes off of having taken 2 out of 3 against the Atlanta Braves here, winning 7-3 last night. Swing and a foul back. And the count is even on Joe and a ball and a strike. Already one final score in from the American League in the first of a twin bill in Toronto. Oakland wins it 7-2 over the Blue Jays. Branco the winner, Baylor Moore the losing pitcher. Montreal infield, a double play depth. Grimsley to Morgan. Joe swings and bounces it to Perez. Tony throws to Spire. Return throw, double play, and that's the inning. 3-6-3. Perez, Spire, back to Tony. No runs on 1 hit. And after a half inning of baseball, the Reds nothing, and the Expos are coming to bat.
Well, Jack Nicklaus continued his assault on the record book today with a sizzling 7 under par 64 for a 12 under 130 score in the Philadelphia Golf Classic. The newly crowned British Open champion has a 4-stroke lead among early finishers. Nicklaus had 7 birdies during his bogey-free round that tied the tournament record with a low 18-hole score posted by R.H. Sykes in 1965. His 2-day total of 130 over the White Marsh Valley course, bettered by 2 strokes, the 36-hole tournament mark established in 1973 by Jim Barber. Nicklaus is 4 strokes ahead of veteran Miller Barber and Fuzzy Zeller. The elder, who won in Milwaukee the week before the British Open, carded a 67 to tie Bruce Leitsky at 135. John Schroeder, helped by an ace on the par 3/16, is at 136. He hit a 6-iron into the cup on the 145-yard hole.
Well, the pennant race in the National League's Western Division is heating up, and it looks like the month of September is going to be an exciting one for Reds fans. Make your plans right now. The Giants will be at Riverfront Saturday, September 9th, and Sunday, September 10th. And the Dodgers then come to town September the 26th, 27th, and 28th. Stop by the Reds ticket agency nearest you and purchase your tickets now for these big dates. In Hillsborough at First Security Bank, at Portsmouth at Harding's Incorporated, and in Fort Wayne at Hartzler Sports Shop. Scoreless after a half inning. Right-hander Mike Lacoste, 6'4" string bean. They have him in the Reds media guide as weighing 186 pounds. I would somewhat question that figure, but a young man who posted 11 victories down at Indianapolis before getting the call up last Monday, and while making his first major league start, as you know, he pitched an inning against this Expos club last Tuesday night and had the misfortune of giving up a home run to the first man he faced in the major leagues, Andre Dawson. So I would think Mike feels like maybe he has a bit of a score to settle with this ball club and hopes to make his first major league start as memorable the other way as his first major league appearance was the other way. Davey Cash will lead off, followed by Dawson and then Ellis Valentine. Cash, the second baseman, batting .270. Right-handed batter, good contact hitter as Lacoste delivers and Cash takes it low for a ball. Reds 2.5 games behind the San Francisco Giants and a half game in front of third-place Los Angeles. Here's a bouncer along the first base side, fielded by Dreesen. Danny will take the ball to the bag to retire Cash. One gone. Both the Giants and the Dodgers are now back home after road trip. San Francisco will be hosting Pittsburgh in the probables in that series opener. Jim Bibby, 5-4 for the Bucs. Bob Knepper, 11-5 for San Francisco. Knepper, by the way, will be going after his 4th consecutive win against Pittsburgh this season. Cardinals at L.A., Silvio Martinez, 4-3 against 9-game winner Bert Hooton. Of course, those two games will be getting underway a bit later on, as will Chicago and San Diego. Here's a pitch to Dawson, low and inside a ball. Dawson, the center fielder, batting .255 with 15 homers and 47 RBIs. He's homered against Cincinnati pitching now 3 times this season. He swings and fouls it off the right side. 1 ball and 1 strike. Ellis Valentine on deck as Lacoste looks in to get the sign from Johnny Bench. He 1-1s to Dawson, and he hit him. Dawson hit with a fastball up and in as Andre goes down and now comes back up very slowly, tossing the bat away, and now is going to be examined by the Montreal trainer as he makes a slow walk down to first base. Looks like Lacoste got him pretty good with that pitch. So one getting away from Mike Lacoste, putting Dawson at first base and bringing to the plate right fielder Ellis Valentine. Still working on Dawson down at first. Valentine, a .308 batter. He's homered 17 times with 56 runs batted in. Now Lacoste will stay loose by throwing on down to Johnny Bench. Houston and Philadelphia playing a pair at the Vet tonight at the end of 5.5 in Game 1. Phillies lead at 5-1. Mike Schmidt, with a man on, has hit his 12th home run of the season. Dick Rusin on the mound for the Phillies. Necro started for Houston. Zamora has come on in the 6th inning. Atlanta will be at New York. Hanna versus Espinoza. And we mentioned the 3 West Coast games. The starters in San Diego will be Russell for the Cubs and Perry for the Padres. Andre Dawson over at first base as he takes his lead, and Ellis Valentine steps in. No score in the bottom of the first inning. Cash has bounced out to Dreesen before Dawson was hit by the pitch. Lacoste with a stretch. The long pause and the pitch to the plate, and Valentine takes it low ball. Dreesen, Morgan, Rose, and Concepcion in the Cincinnati infield. First, second, third, and short. Foster in left, Henderson in center, Griffey in right. Johnny Bench doing the catching, going out to the mound now to talk with Mike. After this game, we'll have 5 more on the road trip tomorrow and Sunday afternoon here in Montreal. And then Monday, Tuesday night, Wednesday afternoon at Shea Stadium against the Mets. Bench back behind the plate. Lacoste with a 1-0 delivery, and Valentine takes that downstairs. 2 balls and no strikes. Henderson shading Valentine just a bit toward right field. Foster playing well off the line and left. This pitch is swung on a slow tapper back to the box. Lacoste goes to Morgan, and Joe, taking the low throw, has no chance to get off a throw to Dreesen on a hope-for double play, but they force Dawson 1-4 at second base. That means first baseman Tony Perez will step in. Batting .291. His 8th home run came in Cincinnati earlier this week, and he's knocked in a total of 52 on the season. There's a throw to first base, and Valentine just back in ahead of Dreesen's tag. Lacoste with a quick move that way. Perez right up among the league leaders in doubles. He's had a total of 30 this season. Inside and well inside to him for ball 1. Perez, 1 ball and no strikes. Runner at first base, 2 down. Another throw to first and safe again. Montreal currently in 4th place in the Eastern Division. They're some 6 games behind the Phillies. 2 under 500 at 47 wins and 49 losses. Swung on and grounded to short. Concepcion plays and flips on to Morgan for the 4th out that ends the inning. So for Montreal, no runs, no hits. 1 man left on, and after 1 complete, the Reds nothing and the Expos nothing.
Let's check on that ball game that was played earlier today in the American League at Toronto. Woody Horton belted a 2-run homer, and Taylor Duncan stroked a 2-run triple to back the 4-hit pitching of Steve Renko and lead the club, the Oakland A's, to a 7-2 triumph over the Toronto Blue Jays in the first of a doubleheader. Renko struck out 4, walked 5, and going the distance for the 2nd time to even his record 4-4. Bob Baylor doubled home Toronto's run in the 5th inning. Talk more about Pete Rose getting a hit on the very first pitch from Ross Grimsley tonight to take all the pressure off Pete the rest of the way. He now has hit in 34 straight games. That passes Rogers, Hornsby, and Honey Manouche. He is now tied with Don DiMaggio with the Red Sox in the American League in 1949 at 34. The latest, the highest mark above Pete in the National League is outfielder Tommy Holmes, 37 in 1945.
Taking a look at the American League schedule tonight before the Reds come to bat in the 2nd. We mentioned that final from Toronto and the first of a twin bill at Tiger Stadium. California behind Frank Tanana, shutting out Detroit 1-0 with the Tigers batting in the bottom of the 7th inning. Tanana seeking his 14th victory of the season, and if he gets it, he will equal Ron Guidry's 14 as the winningest pitchers in Major League Baseball. Seattle playing at Cleveland. It'll be Mike Parrott against Mike Paxton. New York at Chicago, Jim Beatty against Francisco Barrios. Boston plays at Kansas City. Eckersley versus Gura, and Milwaukee at Texas. Travers opposes Medich. Baltimore will be at Minnesota. Mike Flanagan also will be going after his 14th win tonight against rookie Roger Erickson. Here's George Foster now as we move to the top of the 2nd. George enjoyed his first 2-home run game of the 78 season against Grimsley on Monday night at Riverfront. Pitch to him is taken off the plate and high for a ball. George with 23 home runs tops in the National League. Breaking ball is low and inside, ball 2, and his 77 RBIs also lead the league by a couple over San Francisco's Jack Clark. Jim Rice has now knocked in 79. This one way inside and gets through Gary Carter, and Foster a pitch away from getting a walk. 3-0. Johnny Bench, Davey Concepcion to follow in the Reds' second of a scoreless ball game. Grimsley kicks and throws, and that gets Foster in the head, and I think George is a little bit upset. That ball hit him in the batting helmet, a glancing blow. George never went down. Larry Starr running out from the Reds' dugout, and, well, we've had players hit on both sides in the first inning plus of this ball game. Andre Dawson nailed by Mike Lacoste in the bottom of the first, and now Foster hit in the head by Ross Grimsley here in the second.
Well, I'll guarantee you this. Grimsley better hope he's not up to plate. I'll guarantee you.
Well, in view of the fact
sitting in this booth
that George got 2 home runs off of him on Monday night, and he almost hit him on a pitch prior to that, I got to tend to agree with you a little bit.
That one, that's a little too vicious, I think.
Well, Foster keeping himself under control, and I'll tell you got to give him a lot of credit for that. Because I don't think Mr. Grimsley wants any bit of George Foster, especially in George's current state of mind, which I promise you is a bit irate. So he's at first base, and here's Johnny Bench. And we have something brewing here in the early innings that may well not be over by any stretch of the imagination. Bench batting .257. Foster at first, the pitch low and away. It gets through Gary Carter, and George will jog on down to second base. I guarantee you the line uttered by somebody in the Reds dugout is Grimsley doesn't throw hard enough to hurt anybody. And that'll be a charge, a wild pitch to Ross Grimsley, moving Foster on to second. Interesting John's statements on the turf side show tonight about the fact that he's been choking up on the bat, making contact. Certainly the results have been more than evident. He holds back on the swing, and that pitch is in for a call strike. 1-1. And the Reds trying to get a run across here in the second inning after Grimsley has hit Foster in the head with a pitch and promptly Wild pitches him to second base. Bench takes it low and away, and the count goes to 2-1 strike. Johnny has hit .500 since the All-Star game, with 13 hits and 26 times up, and has also been on 6 times through walks. Out in front now, 2-1, Concepcion on deck. Grimsley looks in, delivers, and that is ball 3. Just missed high with a pitch. Bench a pitch away from getting a walk as the count goes to 3-1. Bench leveling the bat. Grimsley taking a lot of time between pitches. Now comes to the belt. He delivers, and John swings and fouls it off the right field line. That'll be on a play. Freddie Norman will be the Cincinnati starter tomorrow afternoon as we see another left-hander, young Dan Schatzeder. And Sunday, it'll be either Steve Rogers or Hal Dews from Montreal, opposing Tom Seaver. Rogers has missed the start because of some elbow problems and is still somewhat up in the air on whether or not he's going to be able to take his turn here on Sunday. Grimsley now steps off the pitching rubber. Bench backs away from the plate. Here comes the payoff pitch, and John swings and grounds one. Nice play by Perez off to his left, and he retires Bench. A nice play by Tony Perez going toward the line. Foster advances to third as Bench grounds out, and we'll pause for station identification on the Cincinnati Reds Baseball Network.
This is the American Forces Radio and Television Service.
Reds have Foster at third now with 1 away in the inning as Bench pretty much gave himself up going to the right side of the infield to get George over to third. Davey with a couple of hits off Philadelphia pitching last night to raise his batting average to .296. The pitch is below the knees for ball one. Well, we get the report from publicity director Jim Ferguson in terms of where that pitch exactly hit Foster. Hit him on top of the helmet. So just a glancing blow that fortunately did not cause any problem. Change up is in for a strike. One and one to count on the red shortstop. Foster down the line from third. Davey takes it low, and it's 2 balls and a strike. Paul Moscow getting some throwing in down in the Cincinnati bullpen for his next start that'll be coming up Monday night in New York. No score. We're in the top of the second, but we've got Foster at third with only one away, and Davey out in front 2-1 as Grimsley pitches. Concepcion smashes one by Perez into right field for a base hit. Foster comes in to score, and Cincinnati has taken a 1-0 lead. RBI number 40 on the season for David. And in now will be the center fielder, Kenny Henderson. This reminder for your convenience, the Reds downtown ticket offices at 580 Walnut and the stadium are open all day tomorrow, and the stadium ticket office will be open all day Sunday. Stop by and pick up tickets for upcoming Reds home games. Run is in here in the second. The Reds lead the Expos 1-0, and Kenny Henderson, who since the All-Star break has been batting a torrid .421 with 8 hits and 19 times up and 8 RBIs, is the Cincinnati batter now. Davey getting a lead at first. Grimsley looks that way, pitches. Henderson takes the strike. Henderson with a couple of base hits and runs batted in last night. He had a triple and a single. And now Carter calling for a pitch out, but nothing happening down at first base. A ball and a strike. On the year, Henderson hitting .258. 2 homers and 12 knocked in. Grimsley slow working here in the first couple of innings. Henderson swings and pops this one foul. That'll be back into the seats off to the left of the Montreal dugout, first base side. Ball 2 strikes. Danny Dreesen due up next. Grimsley hit Foster to begin the inning. George moved to second on a wild pitch, advanced to third on Bench's ground ball to first base, and scores on the Concepcion single past the diving Perez and into right field. Davey goes, pitch is swung on and fouled off the end of the bat. Count holding on Ken Henderson at 1 ball and 2 strikes. Oh, with Concepcion back at first base, let's see what he'll be doing on Grimsley's next pitch plate. Woodross once again straddles the pitching rubber, bluffs a throw to first, and now looks to his battery mate Carter. The pitch, Davey holds, swing and a miss. Henderson a strikeout victim. The first punch out of the night for Grimsley, and the 2-out batter will be first baseman Dreesen. Danny trying to shake out of a slump that has seen him go hitless in his last 12 official at-bats. He's batting .285. Only had 3 hits and 22 trips this season against the Expos. He takes low ball 1. Swung on, and that one fouled out of play. You know, in the wake of Foster being hit in the head here in the second after Dawson was plunked by a pitch from Lacoste in the first inning, Joe, I don't know, but I don't think any warnings were leveled on the part of the umpires toward either bench.
Certainly didn't look that way.
It sure did not. That pitch is at the knees, strike 2 call. Concepcion, the runner at first base with 2 outs and a run in. Ross continually bluffing a throw to first, trying to keep Davey as close as he possibly can. And the throw to first base, and a high throw it was. Perez reaches over toward the right field side of the bag to play it. Now the pitch. That's low. Carter makes a pickup out of the dirt. 2-2. This will be the first club that Cincinnati will be completely done with in National League play after this series is completed. Of course, we made our last stop in Philadelphia during regular season play. The first two games on this trip, but the Phillies still have to come to Cincinnati to begin a series a week from tonight. Swung on, bouncer towards second. Cash has it. He throws Dreesen out, and that's the inning. But the Reds get a run on a hit. No errors and a man left on in the middle of the second at Olympic Stadium. Cincinnati 1 and Montreal nothing.
Let's check the American League standings now. After that win in the first of a doubleheader, a 20-win bill at Toronto by the Oakland A's, they're 49-46 in the West. They move up a half a game on Kansas City, so they're 3 games back. KC leads California 1, Oakland 3, followed by Texas 4.5, Minnesota 10, Chicago 11, and Seattle 19. In the American League East, Boston on top of Milwaukee by 8, followed by Baltimore 12. The New York Yankees 13, Detroit 16, Cleveland 19.5, and now Toronto, after their loss today to Oakland, are 33-60 and 30 games back. Probable pitchers, they're warming up California, Detroit, Frank Tanana for the Angels, and Wilcox for Detroit. Wilcox is 6-8. Tanana, one of the leaders in the league in pitching, 13-5. Second game probable pitchers, it'll be Jack Dayfrost, 2-2 for the Angels, and Jack Billingham, 8-5 for the Tigers. Looking at Seattle and Cleveland, Glenn Abbott 3-7, opposing David Clyde 5-5. Yankees at Chicago, Jim Beatty 2-4, Francisco Berrios 5-9 for the White Sox. Baltimore and Minnesota, Mike Flanagan 13-7, Roger Erickson 9-6. Boston at Kansas City, Dennis Eckersley 11-2, Larry Garrett 7-2 for KC. Milwaukee at Texas, Bill Travers 6-4 for the Brewers. Doc Medich 4-4 for the Texas Rangers.
Reds enjoy a 1-0 lead as Larry Parrish and company come calling here in the second. Parrish batting .268, 10 homers and 44 RBIs. Lacasse in with a pitch, and Larry takes it low. Jerry Crawford, our plate umpire tonight, with Doug Harvey at first base, Andy Olson at second, and Jim Quick at third. Strike on the outside edge to Parrish, 1-1. Swung on and hit hard off of Pete Rose and on into left field. Parrish will take the turn, and that'll be scored a base hit for Larry Parrish. A smash just to the glove side of Pete. Could not totally get in front of it. The ball glanced off of him and bounded on into left field, where it was played by George Foster. Here's a guy who was a hero of a victory here by the Expos 2 nights ago against the Atlanta Braves, Warren Cromartie, who hit a bottom of the ninth inning grand slam home run. Left fielder batting .274. Parrish at first with a base hit, and Cromartie takes ball 1. Montreal getting its first hit as Parrish leads off with a single. Cromartie takes ball 2, 2-0. Chris Pryor, Gary Carter make it, is in the on-deck circle. He'd be followed by Chris Pryor, the shortstop. Swung on and grounded up the middle. Base hit into center field. Parrish takes the turn. He's going to come on to third. Kenny Henderson throw, cut off by Concepcion. Throw back to first, not in time to get Cromartie. Back-to-back base hits by Parrish and Cromartie. As the Expos here in the second try to set up shop with runners at first and third for Gary Carter. batting only .233. Say only because this guy hit .284 last year and had quite himself a season for this team. He takes it at the knees for a strike. Last year at 31 homers and knocked in 84 runs this season. Has hit 10 home runs up to this point with 40 runs driven in. Tying run down at third and Parrish. Cromartie over at first. Nobody out. Pitch is swung on and hit deep to left field, but Foster will have room to play it as he moves toward the line. He makes the catch. Parrish tagging at third and comes on in to tie it up. Carter with an RBI is 41st, and knocks things up at a run apiece, bringing to the plate shortstop Chris Fire. Fire last night hit for the cycle, single, double, triple, home run, and the Montreal win over Atlanta. There's a throw to first, and he seemed to have a point to prove after a rumored fight. Actually, only one punch was thrown in the Montreal clubhouse prior to last night's game between general manager Charlie Fox, of all people, and pitcher Steve Rogers. Pitch is low, ball one. It seems that Fox was getting on Fire pretty good about the slump that he has been in of late. Rogers tried to intervene, telling Fox to get out of the clubhouse. He put his hand on Charlie's chest and pushed him just a bit. Another throw to first, and as the story goes, Fox threw a punch. And that was the extent of it. But it seemed to upset the Montreal players quite a bit, and ironically enough, here's a pitch to the plate that's high and inside 2-0. While it has not been officially announced as yet, Steve Rogers has signed a multi-year contract with the Expos. Announcement should be made official sometime during the course of the game tonight, and they say it's for somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 million. 2-0 pitch. Spire takes it outside, and right now Lacoste behind 3-0. Spire, a .253 batter. Game tied at 1 run apiece, 1 out in the inning. Cromartie at first base. Fire takes a strike, and it's 3-1. On deck, Ross Grimsley. There's a throw to first, and back again is Warren Cromartie. Now the 3-1, and that is grounded up the middle. That's the base hit. Here's Cromartie to second. He's going to hold as the Expos have come up with their third hit in the inning off of Mike Lacoste, and now the batter will be pitcher Ross Grimsley. Now, if there's going to be any Cincinnati retaliation because Foster was hit in the head, you certainly would not expect to see it now. And putting quite a burden on a rookie pitcher, especially one making his first major league start. Enfield looking for the bunt. Dreesen and Rose at first and third. Cromartie second, Spire first. Lacoste delivers, and Grimsley takes ball one. One-0 pitch. That's a strike call, and so far Grimsley's shown no signs of wanting to bunt the ball as the count evens at 1 ball and 1 strike. He's had 9 hits this season and 52 times up, all of them singles and 4 RBIs. Mike Lacoste into his stretch motion. He delivers, and this one is fouled back to the screen. Grimsley falls behind at 1-2. Parrish and Cromartie greeted Lacoste with back-to-back singles. Carter's fly ball to left got Parrish in, and Spire has grounded one into center field, moving Cromartie on to second. So only one away in the inning. They won one game in the bottom of the second. Grimsley now tries to bunt and did not get it, so that'll be a strikeout. 2 down as we go back to the top of the order for Dave Cash. Well, a big game between Reds players and their sons and daughters is coming up prior to the Reds-Padres game on Sunday, August 6th. It's sure to be a lot of laughs, so be on hand for all the fun. Cash in the first inning had a check swing ground ball to Danny Dreesen. Dave takes a strike, a fastball. Two teams have met 9 times this season. The Reds have won 5 of the 9 meetings. Cromartie second, Spire at first. Cash swings, grounds one slowly to the right side. Wide at first, Dreesen on to Lacoste covering for the put out at first base, and that ends the inning. Montreal gets a tying run across on 3 hits with 2 left. And after 2 full, the Reds won and the Expos won.
Let's check some more golf. 2 dumb mistakes and an ailing thumb didn't prevent 2-time champion Donnie Young from taking a 2-stroke lead in the U.S. Women's Open Golf Championship at Indianapolis. Young, the Open champion in 1969 and 1970, but winless in 76, fired a record equaling 3 under par 68 today over the stifling hot country club of Indianapolis course. More temperatures in the mid-90s and high humidity are predicted for Saturday. Defending champions, Otis Stacey, and 2 relatively unknowns, Vicky Fergan and Alexander Reinhardt, posted 70. Top money winner Nancy Lopez is grouped with 3 others at par 71. Joanne Carter, the winner at Dublin, Ohio last week, and second in earnings, is in a group at 73. Meanwhile, Jane Blaylock, the tour's number 3 money winner, with 2 victories and 2 seconds in her last 4 tourneys, is at 74.
As we go to the 3rd inning, Mike Lacoste will lead it off for Cincinnati. We're tied at a run apiece, and here to call the play-by-play for you, Joe Nutsall.
All right, Marty. Lacoste, Rose, and Griffey here in the 3rd. The score tied 1-all. Reds getting their run in the 2nd inning after George Foster was hit on the top of the helmet on a 3-0 pitch by Grimsley. He moves the 2nd on a wild pitch. The 3rd, as Bench was out on a good play by Tony Perez at first base on his ground ball, and then scored on Dave Concepcion, single to right. Reds have had 2 hits. Lacoste takes a strike at the knees from Grimsley. Reds have won 5 of the 9 games played between the Reds and the Expos this year. Grimsley to the plate, low and outside. The count evens 1-1. Montreal playing their 97th game of the year. Lacoste takes ball 2 low and outside. The Reds in their 95th. Two balls a strike. Grimsley delivers. Lacoste swings and loops it into right field. Coming on is Valentine, and makes the running catch. Away, and Pete Rose, the batter. And, of course, Pete extended his hitting streak to 34 straight with the single to center field leading off the game. Grimsley delivers outside a ball. Pete, for the 13th time in that streak, started things off with a base hit. He looks at a breaking ball down low, and it's 2 balls, no strikes. There's the strike. It's 2-1. Against Grimsley this year, Pete now 3 for 9. The 2-1 delivery. Swung on, chopped foul. Count even 2-2. Crowd here at Olympic Stadium tonight. Grimsley waiting on the sign, has it, delivers. Throws, swings, and fouls off to the right. Olympic Stadium holds about 60,000 for baseball. Two balls, two strikes to Rose, one out, base is empty. Ken Griffey on deck, the pitch. High and outside, a full count to Pete. And the payoff, swung on and fouled. That'll play to the right. Grimsley has walked 44 batters in 152 innings coming into tonight's game. Here again is the 3-2. Rows of ground balls fired short. Has it going on to Perez. 2-0. Ken Griffey to the plate. Ken trying to bunt in the first inning, popped to Grimsley on the mound. And he hitting .296. Grimsley delivers, and Griffey takes an off-speed pitch high. Clock 12-6 on the year. The 313 earned run average, the 1-0. Up high, and 2 balls, no strike. Two-0 delivery. Pitching low and inside, a 3 balls, no strike. Reds with 2 hits in the game. Rose is single in the first, and Concepcion Darby single in the second. The pitch in for a called strike, 3-1. Grimsley back to the plate. Swung on, line drive right of Larry Perry. Third base, and that's the inning. Reds out in order for the first time. Nothing across. Middle of the third. Cincinnati 1, Montreal 1.
Joe Nuxall doing the color has been for quite a few years the Cincinnati Reds, along with Marty Brenneman. Started out as a Cincinnati Reds pitcher when he was only 15 years, 10 months, and 11 days old. That was back in 1944. He was the youngest person ever to play in the Major League. Well, it was pretty hot for tennis in the nation's capital today, playing in 100-degree courtside temperatures. Top-seeded Jimmy Connors and 12th-seed Jose Higuera struggled to quarterfinal round victories in the $175,000 Washington Star International Tennis Championship. Connors gained a spot in Saturday's first semifinals against Higueras with a 7-5, 6-4 triumph over 15th-seeded Hans Gildermeister of Chile. Meanwhile, Higueras of Spain earned the right to meet Connors with a 6-4, 6-4 win over 6th-seeded Harold Solomon of Silver Spring, Maryland. The victory guaranteed both players $6,600 for reaching the semifinals. Another quarterfinal matches Friday night. 3rd seed Eddie Dibbs of Miami will take on 8th seed Wojciech Pazik of Poland.
For Montreal in the bottom half of the third, Andre Dawson, Ellis Valentine, and Tony Perez due up. Dawson hit by a pitch in the first inning. He struck above the left elbow. Andre hitting .255, 15 home runs, 47 RBIs. He's had 9 doubles and 4 triples. Dawson with an 8-game hitting streak. On 15 for 31 in the 8 games, good for a 484 batting average. Acosta delivers, and Dawson swings and pops it into right field. Ken Griffey coasting in a few steps, waiting on it, and has it 1 away. 1 down. Ellis Valentine steps in. Valentine forced Dawson at second in the first inning, bouncing back to Lacoste. Mike wants another baseball from late umpire Jerry Crawford. Reds scoring their run in the second inning. The Expos coming back with a run in the bottom of the second to tie it at 1-1. looking to bench. And winds and delivers. And that's Valentine takes the strike on the outside corner. Mike, an 11-game winner at Indianapolis this year. The 0-1. Valentine chops it foul. Off to the left. Lacrosse in front now. No balls, 2 strikes to Ellis Valentine. Lacrosse the 0-2. That's a check swing foul. One out, base is empty. 0-2 count to Ellis Valentine. The field about straight away for Valentine. The 1-2 delivery. Swung on and missed. He got him with a fastball down and in. Well, Tony Perez, we noticed him after making a diving stab at Dave Concepcion's base hit, and apparently Tony might have jammed his left shoulder because he was really flexing him down at first base. Tony is going to leave the lineup, and Del Unser will pinch hit for him. It's 2 out here in the 3rd inning. So Del Unser, a left-handed batter, takes high, make it a strike from Lacoste. Unser hitting .213 with 2 home runs, 11 RBIs, and 5 doubles. The Expos picked up Tommy Hutton yesterday, swing and a miss, and it's 0-2. Getting Hutton from the Toronto Blue Jays, player to be named later. 0-2 the count. 2 outs, the base is empty. Lacoste winds and delivers, and Unser takes just off the plate. 1-2. Mike into the wind and the 1-2. That's inside. A cut fastball, as he calls it, a slider. Count even 2-2. Across the 2-2. Unser takes ball 3. So after being out in front, 0-2 to Del Unser, Mike has now gone forward in 3 balls, 2 strikes. Harry Shondeck and the payoff to Unser. Swung on, and that's grounded to Reese, and he bobbles the ball, picks it up, throws it across, and got him. So Danny bobbled the ball, had to chase it behind him, picked it up and threw quickly to Mike Lacoste, and on a very close play, they retired Del Unser. Play going 3-1. It was the first time in the game Lacoste retired the Expos in order. Nothing across, and after 3, Cincinnati won, Montreal won.
Word in from Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, Mike Schmidt hit his first home run since June 24th to help the Philadelphia Phillies and the Houston Astros their 4th straight defeat, 6-1, the first of a 2-night doubleheader. Schmidt, who missed 16 games with a full muscle, hit his 12th homer with winning pitcher Dick Rusman, 7 and 8 on base, to key a 4-run 3rd inning. A walk to Greg Luzinski, a Richie Hebner double, and Gary Maddox single accounted for 2 more runs. The losing pitcher was Joe Niekro, whose record now is 6 and 8. He gave up another run in the 5th when Jerry Martin walked, stole second, and then scored on 1 of 4 hits by Larry Bowen. The Phillies added their final run in the 8th inning when Bob Boone smashed his 8th home run. Rusman now 5-2 since joining the Phillies June 15th. Gave up a run in the 2nd when Art Howe doubled, and then scored on the double by Louis Pilon. So the Phillies now go up to 4 games on the Cubs, 4.5 ahead of Pittsburgh, and now 6.5 ahead of the Expos. Let's pause now for station identification. This is the American Forces Radio and Television Service.
SCN, Canal Zone.
now the ground crew doing some repair work down at first base. Apparently the ground a bit soft down there, and looks like they've taken some dry dirt down to fill in. For the Reds in the fourth inning, it'll be Joe Morgan, George Foster, and Johnny Bench. And the ground crew now leaves the field. The Reds have had 2 hits off Ross Grimsley, has struck out one and has hit a batter. Hit Foster leading off the second with his 3-0 pitch. George moved to second on a wild pitch, to third on a ground out by Bench, and scored on Dave Concepcion. Base hit to right, a ball that Tony Perez made a dive for, and now we find out that Tony jammed the thumb on his left hand. Del Unser now at first base replacing Perez. A pitch to Morgan, he bluffs the bunt, and it's a strike call. Joe grounded into a 3-6-3 double play to end the first inning. Grimsley back to the plate. It swung on and fouled straight back, and quickly Grimsley in front 0-2 to Joe Morgan. Morgan hitting .257, 8 home runs, 56 RBIs, and of course the next home run he hits would be number 200 in his career. The pitch just off the plate, a breaking ball, and the count 1-2. Foster on deck, and then Johnny Bench here in the fourth for the Reds. Score tied 1-1. The pitch swung on, ground ball right at Cash on one knee. On to Unser, 1 away. One down, George Foster, the batter. Of course, George, as we pointed out, hit on top of the helmet on a 3-0 pitch, and there's only one way to look at that. When you're 3-0, and that's to my knowledge, you do try to throw a strike. First pitch, Foster swung on and grounded into right field, a base hit. Valentine up with the ball, returns it to the infield, and that is hit number 3 for the Reds. So with 1 away and Foster at first base, the batter, Johnny Bench. John out on a fine play by Tony Perez in the second inning. John going the opposite way, and Tony going off to his left to glove the hard ground ball and going to the bag and retiring Bench as Foster moved to third. John hitting .257. With the 11 home runs, 34 RBIs, Grimsley delivers an off-speed pitch to tie. Now John turns and looks to Alex Grammas, the third base coach. Alex flashes the sign. Foster at first, 1 away. He started off with Morgan grounding to Cash at second. Grimsley to the belt, the pitch. Again, the slow curveball, that bounces and blocked by Gary Carter. 2 balls, no strikes. Concepcion on deck. Two balls, no strikes to Bench. Foster leads at first. Grimsley looking to Carter for the sign, the stretch. 2-0 delivery, a tie, and it's 3 balls, no strikes to Bench. Now the 3-0. Bench takes it low, ball 4, and that's the first walk issued by Ross Grimsley as Foster moves on to second base. 1 away. Bench at first, Foster second. Dave Concepcion, the batter. Dave, a single ride in the second inning to drive in on 1 run. Maybe his 40th RBI of the year. Concepcion hitting .296. He's hit 3 home runs, 23 doubles, and 2 triples. Grimsley has the sign from Carter, the stretch. Looks back at Foster, the pitch, and that's a strike. A slider on the inside corner to knees. Montreal outfield about straight away for Dave. Eventually to the belt, he delivers. That's ball low, 1-1. Foster at second lead, Bench at first. 1-1 the count to Concepcion. Grizzly back to the plate, swung on, grounded foul off to the right side. The count of ball, 2 strikes. Ken Henderson on deck. Grizzly looking to his catcher Carter. And now he looks back again. Another sign. Now the stretch. The 1-2. Swung on and missed. Got him with a breaking pitch down. Strikeout number 2 for Ross Grimsley. 2 away, and Ken Henderson the batter. Henderson struck out in the second inning. Gary Crawford, the plate umpire, checking out the baseball, and now he gives it back to Grimsley. Henderson hitting .258 with 2 home runs and 12 RBIs. That's one Cincinnati home run, a big one in Philadelphia. Wednesday night. Fastball is outside to Henderson, ball 1. Normally a quick worker. Here's the 1-0. The slow fair that bounces again in front of the plate, blocked by Carter. Count 2 balls, no strikes. See another left-hander tomorrow night, and Schatzeder, the 4th straight left-handed pitcher, starting pitcher we've faced. There's a strike. 2-1. Fastball on the outside edge. Right-hander Jerry Fertles, the Montreal bullpen, and throwing. 2-1 the count to Henderson. Foster second, Bench first. 2 out. Henderson backs away from the plate, now steps back in. Grimsley to the belt and delivers. Ken takes it high. 3-1. Danny Dreesen on deck. Grimsley the stretch. And a 3-1. That swung on and hit the center field deep. Going back as Dawson has room there waiting, and that's the inning. Henderson hits it good, but straight away center field, and Harry Dawson runs the play easy. Reds in the inning, no runs, a hit, no errors. 2 runners left on base, and it's the middle of the 4th. Cincinnati 1, Montreal 1.
Looking at the leading batters in the National League, Jeff Burroughs of Atlanta, 328. Jack Clark, San Francisco, 321, followed by Madlock of San Francisco, 330. Whitfield, San Francisco, 319. Parker of Pittsburgh hitting at 313. Valentine, Montreal, 308. Pete Rose of the Reds, 305 with 121 hits now. Simmons, St. Louis, 303. And Foster of Cincinnati and Boa of the Phillies, both at 302. The American League, Rod Carew leads it with 347. Rice of Boston, 325. Also, Lynn of Boston. A correction on that. Lacano of Milwaukee, 325. Lynn of Boston, 322. Sunberg, Texas, 311. Bell of Cleveland hitting at 309 clip. Carl Yastrzemski of Boston and Jackson of California, both 307. And Brett of Kansas City and Al Oliver of Texas, both hitting at 304. Home run leaders in the American League, Rice of Boston 23, Baylor, California 22, National League Foster, Cincinnati 23, and Lazinski of the Phillies 22.
In the bottom of the fourth inning, Montreal will send up Larry Parrish, Warren Cromartie, and Gary Carter. Parrish singled in the second inning leading off and scored the one Montreal run. Moved to third on a base hit by Cromartie and scored on Carter's sacrifice fly to left field. Parrish hitting .268 with 10 home runs and 44 RBI. Phillies beat the Atlanta Braves 6-1 the first of the doubleheader at Veterans Stadium. Nick Root getting the win. Harry Stiggs from lacrosse low. That was the Phillies over Houston, not Atlanta. Joe Negro, the loser. Across the 1-0. That's on the outside corner. Called strike. 1-1. 1-1 the score. Mike Lacoste, his first major league start, delivers. Swung on and missed. Fastball. 1-2. Mike has struck out one, and the Expos with 3 hits. Lacoste has hit a batter. He hit Dawson in the first inning. Warren Cromartie on deck. Lacoste winds in the 1-2. That's low and outside. Now even 2 balls, 2 strikes. Red top field straight away for Larry Parrish. The wind of 2-2 delivery. Swung on, and that's grounded slowly. Rolls off to his left, bobbles the ball, and really a base hit to Parrish. Thanks to Parrish, a good changeup, Larry, way out in front, and bounced the ball to Concepcion. Pete got his glove on it, could not control it. They're going to charge Rose with an error. Pretty good gamble there by Pete. But they have charged him with an error, and that's the first one of the game. Parrish at first, and here's Cromartie. Cromartie a single to center in the second inning. He swings and chops one to Dreesen. Danny has it. Goes to the bag as Parrish moves on to second base. On the way in, Carter the batter. Carter the fly ball to Foster in left field in the second inning. Parrish scoring on the fly ball, and that was the 41st RBI of the year for Gary Carter. There's Fire on deck. That's by Lacoste, and the pitch. Swung on and foul. Carter an off year, inning 233 with 10 home runs and now 41 RBI. Very a pass hit up in the middle of the lineup. 4th or 5th. 1-1 to count. 1 out. Parrish at second base. Across, checking with bench. Now Carter asks for time and backs away from the plate. Gary steps back in. Lacoste sets and delivers. Carter takes it inside. Not even 1-1. Ball a strike to Gary Carter. Mike Lacoste sets and delivers. There goes Parrish. Here's Bench's throw. Got him easy. Carter swinging and missing. Bench throwing to Rose, and he gets Carter, or Parrish rather, by 20 feet. A 2 away. Play going 2-5. 2 out, and the count of ball 2 strikes to Gary Carter. Oscar works in the windup. Here's the 1-2. Outside. Not even 2-2. Mike winds and delivers. That's inside. Full count to Gary Carter. Cross has not walked the batter, but he's had 3-2 counts on several. Mike's the payoff. That's swung on and grounded up the middle into center field of A6. Henderson plays it back to the infield. Carter makes the wide turn. Hit number 4 for the Expos, and here's Chris Spire. Chris is single to center in the second inning. Spire 243, or 253 rather. Pitch to him, he takes a strike. Spire with 4 home runs, 31 RBIs. Monty pointed out, hit for the cycle yesterday. That being a single, double, triple, and a home run. 1-1 to count. Carter at first base. Across the stretch. And the pitch. Spire checks on a breaking pitch is low. 1-1. Pitch swung on and a foul tip. 1-2 now to Spire. Foul tip hitting the bench on the left leg. Across onto the pitching rubber. Looks in the bench. And the stretch. The 1-2 delivery, swung on and fouled to the screen. That's the outfield. Henderson in particular shaded around to the right. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Spire. A stretch by Lacrosse. And again the 1-2. That's inside snap throw to first. Carter's backhands first. It's just inside the Spire. The count even 2 balls, 2 strikes. Cross has the sign. The 2-2. That's high and outside. Full count now to Spire. So with 2 outs, Gary Carter will be moving at first base as Dreesen moves behind him. The stretch and the payoff to Spire. That swung on a high chopper. Concepcion charging short hop, running goal, got him. Nice play by David. For the Expos in the inning, no runs, they get a hit. There's 1 Cincinnati error, 1 runner left on base, and at the end of 4, Reds 1, Expos 1.
Looking at more of the leaders in baseball, individual leaders, runs batted in the American League, Rice of Boston has 79, Staub of Detroit 73, Heisel of Milwaukee 66, Jason Thompson, the young slugger for the Tigers, 65, and Thornton, Cleveland, 58. RBI leaders in the National League, Foster, Cincinnati, 77, Clark of San Francisco, 75, Winfield, San Diego, 64, Garvey of the Dodgers, and Martinez of the Mets, 61. Stolen base department in the American League, LaFleur, Detroit, 36, Wilson, Kansas City, 30, DeLeon, Oakland, and Cruz, Seattle, 29, and Buck Wills of Texas, 28. In the National League, Marino, Pittsburgh, 42. Lopes of Los Angeles and Richards of San Diego, 28. Tavares of Pittsburgh, 24. And Cedeno of Houston, 23. Pitching in the American League, Goodrich of the Yankees, 14-1. Donana, who's pitching tonight for the California Angels, 13-5. Leaders in pitching in the National League Blue of San Francisco, 13-4. The pitcher for the Expos tonight, Ross Grimsley, 12-6.
Now the 4-inning totals show the Reds a run, 3 hits, and 1 error. The Expos a run, 4 hits, no errors. Danny Dreesen will lead off the 5th inning for the Reds, and back with the action, Marty Brenneman.
Okay, Joe, Danny 0 for 1 in the game. He was up in the 2nd inning and grounded out to second baseman Davy Cash. Reds own 3 hits off Grimsley, who at least up to this point has pitched far better than he did last Monday night at Riverfront. Rose had a hit in the 1st inning to extend his hitting streak to 34 straight games. A base hit to drive in a run in the 2nd by Davy Concepcion, and a single by Foster in the 4th. Grimsley has struck out a couple. He has walked 1. Danny at the plate now as we kick off the 5th inning. Grimsley trying for win number 13 on the season. He was on that National League All-Star pitching staff. He delivers to the left-handed batter, and it's bounced down the first baseline, a foul ball. Pitch, swing, and a miss. He had Danny way out in front of that slow curveball as the count goes to 2 strikes. Fastball is in the dirt and bounces away from catcher Gary Carter. Rumor has it that Grimsley throws a spitball, and they say most of the time he will throw it when he gets 2 strikes on the batter. Not so sure, but it wasn't a spitter that he struck Concepcion out on in the 4th inning. Got Danny behind at a ball, 2 strikes. This one swung on and grounded into center field, and that's a base hit. That breaks an 0 for 13 string for Danny Dreesen as he reaches Grimsley for the Reds' 4th base hit, and now Mike Lacoste will be up in a likely sacrificing situation. Reds have been hitting the ball very well of late. They had 9 hits last night in the defeat in Philadelphia. Here's a bunt foul off to the right of the plate. Had 10 hits in the series opener against the Phillies. Of course, that was a game that saw us get no hitters for the first 5 innings and have only 1 hit at the end of 6 before they lowered the boom on Carlson in the 7th inning and continued it against McGraw and Marie for the rest of the game. Here's the bunt, first base side of the mound. Grimsley pounces on it, has only 1 play as he throws to Cash covering at first base. So Mike Lacoste doing the job he was sent up to the plate to do, and that's lay down the sacrifice bunt. And here's Pete Rose. Rose 1 for 2. Singled in the 1st and grounded out the shortstop in the 3rd. Interesting to note some comments made by the man who holds the National League record for the longest hitting streak, Tommy Holmes, in the New York Daily News today. Holmes says he isn't rooting for Pete to break his National League consecutive game hitting record, but is happy a, quote, player of the Cincinnati Red Stars caliber is making the challenge. The pitch to Rose and swung on, shot into right center, but there to play it is Valentine. He almost overran that ball. Had to leave the AstroTurf to grab it after going quickly off to his right. 2 away for Ken Griffey. Holmes went on to say it's funny. Only a few weeks ago, a fellow asked how I'd feel if somebody broke the record, and I said if it happened, I only hoped it would be someone like Rose. I'll be honest, added Holmes, who now works in community relations for the Mets. I don't want to see him break my record, but if he does, I'll take my hat off and shake his hand. Holmes says, I recall there was no pressure at all on me for 23 or 24 games, but I remember how I felt when I tied Roger Hornsby's then modern National League mark of 33 straight games. I looked up his record and found here was a guy who had a .358 lifetime batting average for 23 years in the big leagues. I felt very humbled. Griffey grounds it to first base. Unser has it, takes a left turn to the bag to retire Kenny, and that's all for the Reds in the fifth inning. No runs, one hit, one left, and we're halfway through this Friday night series opener in Montreal. The Reds won and the Expos won.
The Texas Rangers today placed slugging outfielder Richie Zisk on the 15-day disabled list with a sprained left wrist. Zisk, who has hit 13 home runs and driven in 51 runs this season, injured his wrist July 2nd in the game against the California Angels. Meanwhile, the Rangers called up Gary Gray, first baseman, who has been playing with their Tucson, Arizona Farm Club in the Pacific Coast League. Gray, 25, has driven in 100 runs in 95 games with Tucson and was reported to the club Saturday. Looking at the Pacific Coast League AAA standings in the East, Albuquerque on top of Salt Lake by 1 game. Phoenix is 4 back, Tucson 5, and San Jose 7. In the West, Tacoma leads Portland by half game, followed by Vancouver 4.5, Spokane 12, and Hawaii 16. International League, Charleston leads Pawtucket by 7, followed by Richmond 8.5, Toledo 9.5, Tidewater 11, Rochester Red Wings 11.5, Columbus 11.5, and Syracuse in the International League basement, trailing by 21 games.
Well, the Reds will be back at Riverfront Stadium a week from tonight for the start of a big weekend series with the Phillies. There's a twilight doubleheader on Friday, July 28th, and then afternoon ball games on Saturday the 29th and Sunday, July 30th. Then, after a short 3-game road trip to Atlanta, the Reds come back to Riverfront for a weekend series against the Padres, followed by 3 weeknight games with the Braves. Check out the schedule and make plans to be on hand. Be sure to purchase your tickets in advance. Well, we've got Grimsley leading off the bottom of the 5th inning, and if there's going to be any retaliation for Grimsley hitting Foster in the head back in the 2nd, it would be now. Grimsley struck out in the 2nd inning. Lacasse into the windup and the pitch, and here's a bunt attempt back toward the mound, fielded by Lacasse, and he throws on to Danny Dreesen. 1 away. We'll pause now for station identification on the Cincinnati Reds Baseball Network.
This is the American Forces Radio and Television Service.
SCN, the Downtown.
Grimsley out, first pitch, bunting back to the mound, bringing up leadoff hitter David Cash. He's bounced out twice while facing Lacasse. Fastball is in at the knees for a strike. I'll tell you, Mike has been consistently down with his pitches, which is always a good sign. That is in there for strike 2 call. Let that pitch up a bit, just below the belt. No balls and 2 strikes on Cash. Davey batting .269 on the year, and the pitch high and inside as he spins him out of the batter's box. Cash back in there. Pitching Lacasse, checking on the swing is Cash, 2-2. He mentioned the first major league start for this young man. Born in Glendale, California. Now makes his home in Visalia, California. 6'4", 186-pounder. Here's a foul back to the screen. Broke in 1974 at Billings, where he won 6 and lost 5. 3 years ago was 7-10 at Tampa with a good .286 earned run average. In 1976, he moved up to Double-A ball at Three Rivers, where he was 12-10. Last year, 11-13 in a full season with Indianapolis. Another foul by Cash. And in 4 full seasons in the professional ranks, only last year did Lacasse have an ERA that topped the 3 mark. The 3rd-round draft choice by the Reds in 1974. He's 2-2 in pitching with Cash, and here's a fly ball back into shallow right field. Morgan drifts back to play it, and Joe has it for the 2nd out of the inning. Two away now. It brings up Andre Dawson, who was hit by a pitch in the 1st inning and then flied out to Ken Griffey in the 3rd. This guy had quite a 2-game stay in Cincinnati earlier this week. Monday night had 3 singles, and in the Tuesday night Montreal victory had a single, a double, and a home run. Of course, we just finished in Philadelphia where Larry Boa put on a hitting clinic against us. Here's a pitch to Dawson, and that's taken up and in an off-speed pitch. Hey, one thing, LaCosse keeping him honest up there. Might say, well, after Dawson hit a home run off Mike Tuesday night, that first inning pitch that got Dawson was a purpose pitch. Here's a shot back into deep right center, but Griffey will have room to play it, and he makes the catch. So the Expos are out in order for the second time in 5 innings, and after 5 completed, remains tied. The Reds won and Montreal won.
There were some fireworks in the Expos dressing room Thursday night. Montreal Expos general manager Charlie Fox admitted Friday night there was a slight altercation between himself and Expos pitcher Steve Rogers prior to the game last night against the Atlanta Braves. Just before the Expos were to take the field, Fox went into the Montreal clubhouse and started berating Chris Spire for the way he'd been batting in previous games. Spire had been struggling at the plate and had been in a prolonged slump. Rogers, the Expos player representative in the Players Association, and whose locker is next to Spire's, told Fox that he had no business being in the clubhouse. Rogers told the Expos general manager that there's a league rule that forbids team executives from entering the clubhouse just before a game. Rogers, currently the Expos' best pitcher with a record of 11-7, started to push Fox toward the door. The Expos executive swung around and hit Rogers once in the jaw. Fox also called Rogers yellow and challenged him to continue the fight. Spire was standing nearby. He quickly separated the men, and the incident ended there.
Joe Nuttall and Marty Brenneman back at Olympic Stadium as we move to 6th inning action. Ross Grimsley has given the Reds a run on 4 base hits, while Mike LaCosse has limited Montreal to the same figures. Joe Morgan 0 for 2 tonight, hit into a 3-6-3 double play in the first inning, and then grounded out hard to second baseman Cash in the 4th, and Joe will be the leadoff batter for the second time tonight. The end of 2 innings of play in New York. Preston Hanna against Nino Espinosa. No score. The Braves in the Mets. See in New York beginning on Monday night. And if things go as we all hope they will, that would be the night that Pete could tie the National League record for the longest hitting streak. Here's Morgan and here's Grimsley. Joe brings one to the right side, and here's Cash up with the ball. Throwing and not in time. Joe said on the bus coming out from the hotel this afternoon that he planned on bunting for a base hit tonight, and that he did. As he took it with him, Cash came in to barehand the ball and throwing off balance, just missing Joe at first base. So a leadoff bunt single. Brings up Foster, who's been on twice and has scored the Cincinnati run after being hit in the second by a pitch. He singled in the 4th inning. Foster way out in front, bounces foul, third base side. George has both hit safely and knocked in runs in 6 straight games. A total of 14 RBIs in the last 6 and has batted .348. Got Jerry Pirtle, the right-hander, once again throwing. That's the second time he's been up for Montreal. Morgan with a lead at first. The pitch to the plate. Foster swings, drives one into right center field, but there to play it is Valentine. One gone. Reds Radio Network brings Cincinnati Reds baseball to fans in 7 states. You can hear Reds games in Ironton, Ohio on WIRO, in Kokomo, Indiana on WIOU, in Jamestown, Kentucky on WJRS, and in Bluefield, West Virginia on WHIS. One away in the Red 6, Johnny Bench. 0 for 1 with a walk. He grounded out to Tony Perez in the second. He swings through the first Grimsley pitch, strike 1. Dick Williams not wasting any time getting his bullpen busy. Bench takes it in the dirt. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Marty, I think John right there was questioning that pitch. Had a little funny sink to it.
Well, we were talking at breakfast this morning, Sparky Anderson and Fred Flagg in from the league office to catch this series about the spitball and how it's almost impossible for an umpire to detect, certainly by inspecting the ball, that a pitcher's throwing one. That one gets away from Carter, but he knocks it out in front of him. 2 balls and 1 strike.
And ironic that the umpiring crew that was in St. Louis and the man who got Don Sutton is at first baseman, right, and Doug Harvey. You know, you talk about a spitball and to find the substance on it after it crosses the plate it's right, it's impossible. But really, I've always felt that if you see a spitball once, that you can tell it. You know, it's not a changeup, it's not a knuckleball, it's not a fork ball, because you throw it almost as hard as a fastball, and it has that very slow rotation to it, and 90% of them, I would say, will sink.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, Grimsley reputedly throws one. Bench loops one back at first base. That's going to drop for a base hit. Morgan takes the turn. He'll come to third. Johnny Bench will take the turn at first base and hold right there. Morgan stopped midway between first and second to see whether or not anybody, either Cash or Unser, would be able to play the ball and hit back of first base, well back and just there, kicking to foul ground. So Joe coming on to third base, and the Reds are threatening with Davey Concepcion up, runners on the corners. Talk about the Don Sutton situation. I think that's something that is going to be interesting to bear watching the rest of the way, because I know it was surprising to me that National League President Chub Feeney did not issue any suspension of any nature whatsoever to Don Sutton, other than the fact that he was ejected from that ball game against the Cardinals for throwing a ball that had been defaced. Changes low to Davey, and Carter having all sorts of trouble hanging out of the baseball. Of course, you have to figure that Don Sutton's going to be a marked man the rest of the year, because I would imagine all the umpiring crews that will be working Dodger games involving Sutton as a pitcher have either received the word already or will receive the word to inspect those baseballs. I understand that Ed Bargo, the crew chief of the umpires who worked the series in Pittsburgh in a game that Sutton pitched in, inspect something in the neighborhood of 14 to 15 baseballs and found no markings on them at all. Here's a slowly hit ground ball to third. Harris is going to come to the plate. They've got Morgan hung up. To Carter, back to Joe, and they put the tag out on it. Harris to Carter to Harris. 5 to 5, and Morgan is cut down in the rundown between third and home. So Joe gambling and losing on the slow high chopper to third base. Takes a bit of the pressure off Ross Grimsley as the Reds are trying to fracture the 1-1 tie in the 6th inning. 2 down with 2 on for Kenny Henderson. Struck out and drove one to deep center, caught by Dawson. So he's 0 for 2. Grimsley ready as he sends in the pitch. High to Henderson, ball 1. Hensley's been touched for 13 home runs this season, 1 less than team leader Rudy May. Change is high, ball 2. And May, by the way, is going to be lost to this club for maybe 5 to 6 weeks after suffering bone chips and ligament pulls in his ankles in a game here a couple of nights ago. Two balls, no strikes, with Bench at second, Davey Concepcion at first base, and 2 men out. Here's a swing and a miss by Henderson. In the Cleveland-Seattle game tonight, pitcher Mike Paxton has tied a Major League record held by many by striking out 4 batters in the 5th inning. It was last done by Baltimore's Mike Cuellar back in 1970. In that game, the Indians lead the Mariners 7-0. After 2, Chicago 2, New York 0. Boston and Kansas City an inning and a half of scoreless baseball. And Milwaukee scoreless in the top of the 1st at Texas. Minnesota 3, Baltimore 0 at the end of 1. Grimsley trying to pitch himself out of a sixth-inning jam. And now taking too much time on the mound. Henderson steps away and quickly gets back in. The Reds and the Expos are tied at a run apiece. Grimsley working, and Henderson taking ball 3. In the National League second game, no score at the end of one. Houston at Philadelphia. Rick Williams against Larry Christensen. Atlanta and New York, 0-0 at the end of 3. And the 3 West Coast games, of course, not yet underway. So Grimsley needs a strike. He's behind 3-1. Henderson swings and misses, and the count goes full. Will be moving. Danny Dreesen's on deck. Jerry Pirtle now slowing down his pace in the Montreal bullpen. And now as Grimsley starts into the stretch motion, Henderson calls time. Okay, here comes a 3-2 pitch, and that's ball 4 high, and the Reds have loaded the bases. Grimsley has issued his second walk of the night. That sends Bench to third, Davey to second. And here's Danny Dreesen, who broke an 0-for-13 string with a fifth-inning single to center field. Reds have loaded him up with 2 away. Did 1 Grand Slam home run on his road trip. Foster 2 nights ago, and Dreesen's up there now with the sacks loaded. He swings and pops it up back of the plate, but it'll be out of play. Tomorrow afternoon, Freddie Norman and Dan Schatzeder, 2 left-handers. In the 2:15 start, pregame shows will get underway on the Reds Radio Network at 1:45. Swung on, bounced to first, foul, 2 strikes. Grimsley pitching pretty well tonight. Much in the same vein as he worked against us the first time he went against the Reds earlier this season back in May. In fact, he pitched extremely well in that game. And had it not been for a couple of errors by Larry Parrish that led to 2 unearned runs, Grimsley might well have won the ball game. He's 0-2 with Dreesen. Danny check swings a foul back to the screen. Montreal defense cut down the would-be go-ahead run earlier in the inning. Morgan tried to come home on Concepcion's bouncer to third, but they got him out on a rundown. Henderson has followed that with a base on balls. That's blowing outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes, and now Dreesen asks plate umpire Jerry Crawford to take a look at the baseball. Danny with a count of 1-2 on him as Bench leads at third, Concepcion at second, Henderson at first. A 1-1 tie in the 6th inning with 2 men out. Grimsley taking a lot of time. Now the pause at the belt. He works, and the pitch is swung on and grounded up the middle. Fielded by Fire, but throwing off the base to Davy Cash. And the go-ahead run is home as the Reds take a 2-1 lead. That'll be scored an infield base hit for Danny Dreesen. A soft liner that was fielded on a hop deep behind second by Fire. He underhanded to Cash, who was off the bag. Bench has scored, and the bases remain loaded with the Reds a run up for pitcher Mike Lacoste. So Dreesen gets his 51st RBI, and the Reds lead it 2-1. Lacoste 0 for 1 with a sacrifice. He swings and fouls back at first, and that'll get into the seats down past the Montreal dugout. Giants now with 7 hits on the night. They've had 3 in the inning. That one pop foul out of play. Same area, back of first, strike 2. Grimsley dealing. Lacoste swings, line drive, right field, base hit. Here's Concepcion scoring, and they'll hold Henderson at third base. Mike Lacoste hitting a 2-strike pitch for a run-scoring single to right. The Reds now lead by 2, and here comes manager Dick Williams. That's going to be all for Ross Grimsley. Back-to-back 2-out singles, producing a couple of runs, and sending Cincinnati out in front by 2. Spells the ouster of the left-hander Grimsley, and the right-hander Jerry Pirtle will now come on to do the pitching. So we've got a break in the action here in the 6th inning. As Grimsley leaves, Pirtle comes to the mound, and we'll be back with more in just a moment.
First game is over at Tiger Stadium, the first of a 20 doubleheader. Lyman Bostock drilled a single off second baseman Steve Dillard's glove in the 11th inning to score Kearney Lansford from third base with a tie-breaking run. It helped the California Angels defeat the Detroit Tigers 4-2. Lansford started the 11th with a double off the left field wall and was wild pitched to third by Kip Young, who is making his major league debut. Bostock then followed with his game-winning hit. Bostock moved to second on a walk to Joe Rudy and then scored an insurance run on a single by Brian Downey. Dave LaRoche raised his record to 7-4 with 3 innings of shutout relief. Getting back to AAA baseball standings, we gave all the leagues except the American Association. In the East, Evansville heads up that division, 8-game lead on Indianapolis. Springfield 10.5 back, followed by Iowa 14. In the West, Oklahoma City leads Denver by just a half game. Wichita 3.5 behind. And in the West basement in the American Association, Omaha, they trail Oklahoma City by 5.5.
On the mound now for the Montreal Expos is right-hander Jerry Pirtle. Pirtle, making his 9th relief appearance, has a record of no wins and a loss and a .230 earned run average. Well, the Reds have scored twice here in the inning and now lead at 3-1 and still have the bases loaded. For Pete Rose, who will be up for the 4th time. Rose single in the 1st inning, extending his hitting streak to 34 straight games, bounced to short in the 3rd. In the 5th inning, he flied out to Valentine and right. Pirtle for an inning last Monday night in the game Cincinnati won 8-6. Worked the 8th inning and set the side out in order. Rose batting as a left-handed hitter for the first time in the game, and he takes a strike on the inside edge. By no means did we hit Grimsley as hard tonight as we did in Riverfront Monday night, but he leaves the game on the short end of a 3-1 count. He checks his swing. That's a ball, 1-1. You can bet Pete wants to set this record, but as he pointed out in a conversation with us down in the dugout earlier tonight, it would be great to get a hit tonight, he said, to have the 2nd longest hitting streak in the National League. That's a ball, 2 balls and 1 strike, and of course he has already accomplished that feat with a single in the 1st inning. So he's now 3 away from tying the National League record, and in hitting in 34 straight, it's the longest hitting streak in the Major League since 1949, when Dom DiMaggio hit in 34 straight while playing for the Boston Red Sox. Bases loaded, 2 in, 2 out. Pete swings and fouls it away, and it's 2 balls and 2 strikes to him. Henderson, the lead runner, with Dreesen at second, and Mike Lacoste, who helped his own cause with a single to right. And Rose awaiting the 2-2 from Pirtle. Ball 3. Jerry's got nowhere to put Pete as we get continued action in the Montreal bullpen. Dan Bonson loosening up now for Montreal. Harry Carter now calls time. He's going to go out to the mound and talk with Pirtle. Jerry getting a shot at playing in the major leagues after 12 years in minor league baseball, most of them spent in the New York Yankees organization. Runners will be moving. Pirtle will work out of the stretch on the 3-2 pitch to Rose, and it's on the way. That's ball 4, and he's forced in a run. So Rose gets a walk with the bases loaded, bringing in Kenny Henderson, making it a 4-1 ball game.
Marty, actually, that won't be a walk because the ball did hit Steed on the right leg.
Okay. So the pitch hits Rose. That'll go down as a hit batter. And Rose picks up a run batted in, the third run home in the inning. And here's Ken Griffey, and he's a ninth man to bat. Kenny is 0 for 3. Ball to him. Pirtle having trouble throwing strikes, although hitting Rose with a payoff pitch. And he's behind 2 balls and no strikes to Griffey. And Jim Brewer, the Montreal pitching coach, is now coming out of the dugout. He's going to go to the mound. The inning started when Morgan bunted his way aboard. Foster flied to right. Bench singled softly back at first base with Joe moving on to third base. Concepcion then at a high 1 bouncer to third. They got Morgan in a rundown between third and home. Henderson drew a base on balls. All of this, of course, was off Grimsley. That loaded him up. Dreesen had an infield hit back of second, scoring Bench, making it 2-1. And when Lacoste singled into right field with another run scoring, Grimsley was lifted in favor of Pirtle, and he has hit Rose with a pitch to force in another run. So Cincinnati now is out in front by 3, and Griffey is out in front on the count, 2 balls and no strikes. Brewer back in the dugout. Here's a pitch. Griffey swings, bouncing ball, base hit right field. In to score is Dreesen. They'll hold Lacoste at third base as Valentine uncorks a strike to the plate. And it's now a 5-1 game. And the man who started it all off with a bunt single, Joe Morgan, will be in there. All these runs being charged to Grimsley. Should Lacoste score, that would also be tacked on to his total. And, of course, all of it coming after 2 men had been retired. Morgan 1 for 3. Here's a pitch. Up high, a ball. Reds lead 5-1. Morgan tries to keep it going. Pirtle with a 1-0 delivery. That's down low. 2 balls and no strikes. Fans here at Olympic Stadium getting a little bit feisty now as Jerry Pirtle has first hit Rose with a pitch to force in a run and has given up a run-scoring single to Griffey. He's behind 2-0 and pitching to Joe Morgan. Ball 3. Oh, is that a strike? That's a called strike. 2-1. There's a kick in the pitch. Joe swings, a smash, right by Del Hunter. Down the right field line, Lacoste is home. Here comes Rose to the plate. The throw to third, not in time. Morgan goes to second, he's safe. That'll be a 2-run single for Joe Morgan. And on the throw from Valentine to third, Morgan moves on to second base. It's now 7-1 as the Reds have scored 6 times in the inning. Morgan with 2 hits in a 6-run Cincinnati 6th inning. I'll tell you, he had a rocket shot by Del Unser to pick up his 57th and 58th runs batted in of the year. So close the book on Grimsley, 5 2/3 innings, 8 hits, 6 runs, all of them earned. He struck out 2 and walked 2. Now Foster, who fly to right field. Checks his swing on a curve high and away. Ball 1. Reds have had 6 hits in this inning, and now total 10 in the game. Griffey at third, Morgan at second. Foster looks at a curve that's in for a strike. 1-1. Junior Kennedy now loosening up in the Cincinnati bullpen. We may see him go into play second base when the Expos bat in the bottom of the 6th. Blowing away. Good save by Carter. Keep that one from being a wild pitch. 2-1. Foster with an opportunity to add some RBIs to his league-leading total of 77. That's ball 3, 3-1. That scored 6 times back on the 20th of May in the 8th inning against San Diego. This one foul of the screen, the count goes full. That's the biggest output in one inning that the Reds have had up till tonight. 6 runs in the inning against San Diego in the 8th back on the 20th of May. 3 balls, 2 strikes. The payoff to Foster, and that is ball 4 inside, and that loads it up again. First walk allowed by Jerry Pirtle. Johnny Bench becomes the 12th man to hit. He's grounded out on a walk. He has singled earlier in this inning and has scored a run. So the base is loaded for John. He swings and pops it up on the right side. Back behind first, and now going to foul ground is Unser, and he makes the catch. For the Reds in the 6th inning, 6 runs on 6 base hits. No errors and 3 men left on, and after 5 1/2, the Reds lead the Expos 7-1.
Here's how Cleveland Indians right-handed pitcher Mike Paxton became the 16th player in Major League history to strike out 4 batters in an inning. He achieved that tonight in the 5th inning against the Seattle Mariners at Cleveland. Dan Meyer led off the Mariners' fifth by swinging at a 3rd strike, but reached first base when the ball got by Gary Alexander. Paxton then got Bruce Bochette and Tom Pecoric on strikes, and Bill Stein on the called 3rd strike to end the inning. The last pitcher to strike out 4 batters in one inning was Mike Cuellar of the Baltimore Orioles back on May 29, 1970. Well, in tennis today in Washington, more on that tournament. The 3rd-seeded Eddie Dibbs and 5th-seed Manuel Arantes advanced to the semifinals with victories on the $175,000 Washington Star International Tennis Championship. Dibbs overcame 8th-seeded Wojciech Fidek of Poland, 6-1, 4-6, and 6-love. And Arantes bested 14th-seed Jaime Fiol of Chile, 6-3, 6-1. One of Saturday's semifinals, Dibbs will meet Arantes. In the other, top-seeded Jimmy Connors takes on 12th-seed Jose Higueras of Spain.
Here's a message for young guys and gals who are listening tonight. The 3rd and final Cincinnati Reds team night of 1978 is set for 2 weeks from tonight. That's Friday, August 4th, when the Reds and the Padres get together. The rock group Blue Tater will entertain before the game. How about getting your friends together for a night at the ball game? Young persons through age 19 may purchase regular $4 reserved seats for only $2. So circle the date, Friday, August 4th, when the Reds meet the Padres on team night. Ray Knight has gone into play 3rd base for Pete Rose as we move on to the home 6th inning. Leading it off for Montreal will be Ellis Valentine, 0 for 2 with a strikeout, and he's also hit into a fielder's choice. Here's Lacasse with a pitch, and Valentine grounds it to Concepcion. Davey long throwing to Dreesen, one down, and we'll pause for station identification on the Cincinnati Reds Baseball Network.
This is the American Forces Radio and Television Service.
SCN, Canal Zone.
Del Hunter at the plate for the second time. He pinch hit for Tony Perez, who had to leave the game with a jammed left thumb. Hunter bounced out. He shortens up as if the bunt takes the ball. Well, the way this young man has pitched through 5+ innings, you got to like his chances of picking up the win in his first major league start. 2 balls and no strikes. Hunter, a left-handed batter. And there's a strike on the outside, 2-1. Montreal has had only 4 hits, and 3 of them came in the second when they scored their run. Had singles by Parrish and Cromartie, a sacrifice fly by Carter, and then another base hit, that one by Spire, before he struck out Grimsley and got Cash on a ground ball. He's ready and pitching to Unser, and that is swung on and hit off the fifth into shallow right center, and that'll fall in front of Kenny Henderson for a base hit. Bringing Larry Parrish to the plate. 1 for 2 with a run scored. Here's how to order your Reds tickets by mail. Send check or money order payable to Cincinnati Reds, Box 1970, Cincinnati. Box seats are $5, reserved seats $4. Please enclose 50 cents with each order for postage and handling. Parrish is single. He's reached on an error by Rose and then was caught stealing when he tried to go to third. This one in on his hands, and he fouls it back. We mentioned the 6 runs in the top of the inning, the most the Reds have scored since the 20th of May against San Diego, and the 12 men who came to the plate, the most that we have sent up in 1 inning at any time this season. Soft line drive, back of second, glove by Joe Morgan. 2 out. Sent 11 men up to the plate way back on the opening day of the season, the 6th of April at Riverfront against the Houston Astros. Tonight, 12 go to the plate, and 6 of them get base hits. With 2 down and Unser at first base in the 6th inning, here is Warren Cromartie. He is single. He's grounded out to first base. On the outside corner, a call strike. Low with the next pitch. 1 ball and 1 strike to Cromartie. Dreesen playing off the bag and behind the runner Unser at first base. 1-1 pitch. Swung on, hit to left field. Digging back toward the warning track. Foster, he'll make the catch. Cromartie hit it a long way toward left field, but Foster makes a running catch on the track, and that's the inning. No runs, 1 hit, 1 left through 6 complete. Reds lead the Expos 7-1.
Star running back Walter Payton says he will play out his option with the Chicago Bears this season rather than sign a large contract that might hurt the chances of reaching the Super Bowl. Payton led the National Football League in rushing last season with 1,852 yards. He will receive $66,000 with the Bears this season. He has been offered a 3-year contract of around $375,000 a year, which would make him the second highest paid player ever in the National Football League. Running back O.J. Simpson is the highest paid at $733,000. Payton made the announcement at a news conference at the Lake Forest training camp today. He explained, if I sign a very big contract, it might start problems on the team, players not playing up to their potential. The only way I can avoid that is to play out my option and sit down and talk. Meanwhile, quarterback Len Dickey of the Green Bay Packers says it will take a miracle for him to be ready for the opening game on September 3rd against Detroit. Dickey, who suffered a fractured leg last November, underwent surgery on July 5th for removal of a steel plate from his leg.
We go to the 7th inning. Jerry Pirtle still on the mound for the Expos, and he'll be facing Davey Concepcion for openers in the top of the 7th. Back to call the play. Here's Joe.
All right, Marty. Davey 1 for 3 tonight has driven in a run. He drove in our first run back in the 2nd inning. The single to right field, struck out in the 4th, and hit into a fielder's choice in the 6th inning. The Reds scored 6 times. Pirtle came on to the 6th with 2 out. He hit Pete Rose on a 3-2 pitch. Griffey singled. Morgan singled. Foster walked, and he finally got benched to pop out to Unser in foul territory to end the inning. Gary Pirtle on the mound. Total attendance for the Expos now is 869,000. 892,000 to be exact. And 825 here tonight. Pirtle delivers a breaking pitch up high to Concepcion. The Reds with 10 hits in the game, and 6 of them coming in the 6-run 6. David looks at a fastball low, 2 balls, no strike. Pirtle back to the plate. That's swung on and lined in the right field, a base hit. Ellis Valentine plays it back to the infield. Second hit of the game for Concepcion. Third off Little, and the 11th for the Reds. I mean, Ken Henderson to the plate. Ken will go up hitting left-handed for the first time in the game. Ken 0 for 2 and a walk, scored a run. Pirtle to the stretch, the pitch. Inside a ball. Concepcion at first. Reds leading 7-1. Pirtle ready. Delivers. Henderson takes fastball high and outside. 2 balls, no strike. Now the 1-1 to Henderson. Ken swings and hits it into left center field. That might drop and does, and gets by Cromartie and Dawson. On his way to third, Concepcion. He's being waved in. Into second, Henderson, and the Reds leaded by a score of 8-1. Now Ken Henderson has doubled to left center field. The ball getting between Dawson and Cromartie and on to the fence. For Ken Henderson, his 6th double of the year and his 13th RBI. Concepcion scoring all the way from first base. 12 hits for the Reds now. Bring Dan Dreesen to the plate. Everybody in the Reds lineup has driven in runs excepting Foster and Bench. Joe Morgan with 2. Pitch to Danny Dreesen, high and inside a ball. Dan Bonson again throwing in the Montreal bullpen. Pirtle to the plate, swung on, hit well to right field, and all they do is look at that one. Danny Dreesen just cranks one out of here, a 2-run shot. But Danny is 11th of the year, and the Reds lead it 10-1. Well, he really got all of that one. Ellis Valentine took one step and said, "That's all." So Dan Dreesen has come out of his slump in pretty good fashion here tonight. 3 RBIs for Danny, 3 hits, 4 times up, and that brings Dick Williams out of the Montreal dugout, and I think Dick's going to make 2 changes as he goes to Gary Crawford, the plate umpire. Danny Dreesen, a 2-run homer, and looks like Tommy Hutton will go in and play, we'll see where, in Warren Cromartie's spot in left field. He will hit 9th. Tom Hutton, who just joined the Expos today, will go in left field and replace Warren Cromartie, and Stan Bonson will be the pitcher. Well, we have a break in the action here at Montreal. The Reds leading the Expos by a score of 10-1, and we'll be back after this word.
The Baltimore Colts have traded 9-year tight end Raymond Chester to the Oakland Raiders for wide receiver Mike Sinati. The spokesman says the teams also exchanged unannounced draft picks in the 1979 college draft. Chester returned to the team that drafted him from Morgan State as its first pick back in 1970. In 5 seasons with Baltimore, Chester caught 145 passes for over 1,500 yards and 11 touchdowns. Sinati's a 7-year veteran and Oakland's number 1 draft pick in 1972 from Villanova, where he set several school records. Meanwhile, Ron East, a 10-year NFL veteran, who was a starting defensive tackle last season for the Seattle Seahawks, assigned a 1-year contract. He is the last veteran to come to terms with the club. East will be 35 years old next month. He says he seriously considered retiring, but his kids talked him into playing, and his wife won him out of the house.
New pitcher on the mound for the Expos, right-hander Stan Bonson. Bonson making his 22nd appearance of the year. Has a .450 earned run average. He's 0-4 on the year. In 32 innings, Bonson has allowed 39 hits and has struck out 19 and walked 15. He will face Mike Lacoste with the bases empty and the Reds leading 10-1. Dan Dreschen breaking out of his slump. He's had hits in his last 3 times up here in the game after bouncing out in the second. Single in the 5th, single in the 6th to drive in a run, and now the 2-run homer here in the 7th inning. Pitch to Mike Lacoste is in for a called strike. Mike 1 for 2 and an RBI has scored a run. Bonson, the 0-1, going outside. Not even 1-1. So Gary Pirtle works a third of an inning, allowing 5 hits, walked 1, and 4 runs, all of them earned. Bonson, the 1-1. Swung on, that's pop foul. Off to the right, now to play. Count of ball, 2 strikes to Mike Lacoste. Bonson, the 1-2. That's swung on and bounced to Parrish at third. His throw on to Unser, 1 away. A 1 down and Pete Rose. That was Ray Knight, who was hitting in Pete Rose's spot, will be the batter. Knight hitting 170 with a home run, 3 RBIs, and 3 doubles. Bonson delivers tonight, and Ray takes it low and outside a ball. Pete Rose extends his hitting streak to 34 as he singled back in the first inning. Ray Knight of the plate, getting in Rose's spot. He takes ball 2 low. 2-0 the count. Dave Collins and Rick Arbach loosening up in the Cincinnati bullpen. And maybe both will be going into the ball game. Knight takes the strike on the outside corner. 2-1. The Reds with 6 big ones in the 6th inning. They've picked up 3 here in the 7th. Bonson, the 2-1. Knight swings on it and bounces it to Unser wide of first. He has it underhands to Bonson and out number 2. Play going 1-3, or make that 3-1. Unser to bunt. 2 away, and here's Ken Griffey. Kenny 1 for 4 tonight. He had an RBI single in the 6-run 6th. His 28th of the year. And Dreschen with 3 RBIs tonight gives them a total of 53 on the year. Right, Bonson working to Griffey. Kenny swings and hits it into right center field. Drifting back off. He has room. He is on the warning track, and in the middle of the warning track, he has it. That's the inning that the Reds picked up 3 more runs on 3 hits. There were no errors. No one left on base, and at the middle of the 7th, Cincinnati Montreal 1.
A college basketball note, Oklahoma City has replaced Indiana on a revised 1978-79 Notre Dame basketball schedule. So the Irish and Hoosiers will resume their series beginning with the 1980-81 season. Schedule conflicts forced temporary cancellation of the Irish-Hoosier rivalry that has been renewed every year since the 1946-47 season. A February 21st meeting with Oklahoma City will replace the annual December day with Indiana, leaving Notre Dame with 16 home dates among its 27 games. 7 teams on the slate: Kentucky, UCLA, Marquette, San Francisco, DePaul, Villanova, and LaSalle received NCAA tournament bids last season. 3 others, the Wolfpack of North Carolina State, Dayton, and the Gamecocks of South Carolina, play in the National Invitation Tournament in New York.
Several changes in the Reds lineup. A new catcher, Vic Terrell, replaces Johnny Bench. New double play combination. Junior Kennedy at second, replacing Morton, and Rick Arbach at short, replacing Concepcion, and Dave Collins in center field, replacing Ken Henry. Gary Carter, Chris Fire, and Tommy Hudson will step to the plate here in the 7th inning for the Expos. They trail the Reds 10-1. Lacoste has struck out 1, has not walked the batter, has hit 1. And the Expos with 5 hits off Mike through 6 innings. Off winds his first pitch to Carter, is swung on and fouled to the screen.
Repeating the defensive stages, catching Vic Terrell at second base, Junior Kennedy at shortstop, Rick Auerbach, and in center field, Doug Collins.
The 0-1 pitch, swung on, grounded slowly. Knight off to his left. Has it quick through, got him by a step. Ray going off to the right, to his left, and having trouble getting rid of the baseball, and that's Carter who hustles down the line. 1 away, and Chris Fire, the batter. Fire 1 for 2 tonight. Singled in the 2nd inning and grounded out in the 4th. Across delivers, Fire takes. Down low ball. Mike the 1-0. Up high. 2 balls, no strike. Fire away from the plate, now steps back in. And the pitch. Inside, ball 3. 3-0 to Spire. Tom Hutton on deck. Three-0 delivery. That's ball 4 up high. I think Spire thought that was the strike. So that's the first walk issued by Mike Lacoste. Newest member of the Expos, Tommy Hutton, will go to the plate for the first time since joining Montreal. Tommy applied from the Toronto Blue Jays for future consideration. Tom, of course, spent 6 years with Philadelphia before going to Toronto. Left-handed batter Hutton, he swings and fouls off to the left. Hutton was hitting .253 for the Blue Jays in 64 games this year. He swings and lines one foul down the right side. For the count 0-2. Hutton purchased by Toronto on the 8th of December last year from Philadelphia. Lacoste 0-2 with Tom Hutton. Fire at first base, 1 out. Across to the belt. Now steps back off the pitching rubber. Now the stretch. And the 0-2. Pitching outside. Count of all 2 strikes. Dave Cash waiting on deck. Across. Delivers. Hutton takes. Low and outside. 2-2. Outfield straight away. Now the 2-2 pitch. He swung on. Ground ball. Reaching backhand. He'll throw the second to Arbach. They force fire. Good play by Danny. Moving off to his left. Backhanding the ball. And off to his right, rather. Backhanding and throwing on to Arbach with a force of fire. So 2 away now. Dave Cash the better. Play going 3-6. Hutt now at first base. Cash 0 for 3 tonight. Has grounded to first twice and has popped out to Morgan at second base. His 3 times up. Cash hitting .270. Lacrosse delivers to him. It's swung on a high chopper at Arbach at short. He has it underhands to Kennedy to force a button, and that's the inning. For Montreal, no runs, no hits, no errors. A runner left on base, and at the end of 7, Cincinnati 10, Montreal 1.
Houston Oilers kick return specialist Billy Whiteshoes Johnson failed to report for practice Friday because of contract problems. Coach Bum Phillips says Johnson will be fined $500 for each day he misses. Now, this is Johnson's option season, which entitles him to sign or report unsigned and play at 100% of his 1977 salary. Meanwhile, former Green Bay Packer linebacker Ray Nitschke will be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame at Canton, Ohio on July 29th. The ceremony marks the 3rd straight year that former Packers have received such honors. Mark Starr and Forrest Gregg joined the ranks a year ago, and Jim Taylor was honored in 1976. Coach Bud Grant says there won't be any retirements among veteran members of the Minnesota Vikings who opened their training camp on July 27th. Grant has invited everybody back who finished the 1978 season. Grant expects everybody to be at training camp except Jeff Wright, who had knee surgery last week.
Well, the 7 innings total show the Reds 10 runs, 13 hits, and 1 error. The Expos, the run 5 hits, no errors. A couple of changes in the Montreal lineup. To tell you about them, here's Marty.
Okay, Joe, the changes for Montreal. New catcher is Ed Herman. He replaces Gary Carter. And the new second baseman and taking over for Davey Cash is Pepe Frias. For Cincinnati in the 8th inning, it'll be Kennedy, Foster, and Corral. Junior coming out of the bottom of the 7th inning, up for the first time. He's batting .214, no homers, and 4 runs batted in. Stan Boston on the mound. Right-hander pitches, and Kennedy swings and grounds to Spire at short. Chris gets a good, convenient big hop and throws him out. 1 pitch, 1 out. We'll bring up Foster. His single back in the 4th inning extended his hitting streak to 7 straight. Also got an RBI streak going, having driven in runs in 6 straight games, but without one tonight. Officially, George 1 for 2 has been hit by a pitch and has also drawn a walk. Johnson misses low and off the plate, a ball. That's outside, ball 2. George had briefly moved into a tie with Boston's Jim Rice for RBI leadership in the major leagues. Rice now has driven in a total of 79. Foster with 77. Here's one off the end of the bat to first. Unser backhands and steps on the bag. 2 out. That'll bring to the plate Dick Corral. He'll also be in for the first time at the plate. Dick batting .172, no homers and no RBIs. He's 5 for 29 since getting the call up from Indianapolis, 1 double. Pitch. taken for a strike. That's just high, and it's 1 ball and 1 strike. Sparky Anderson giving a lot of people the opportunity to play tonight after the Reds broke open the close ball game with 6 in the 6th inning and 3 more runs in the 7th, and lead it 10-1. Corral bounces it foul off the third baseline, 1-2. Johnson, who retired 3 batters in a row in the 7th inning after Concepcion had single, Henderson had double, and Dreesen had homered off Pirtle, trying to make the batter his 6th straight retired, and here's a grounder foul at first. Holding count of 1 ball, 2 strikes. Rick Auerbach on deck. Johnson looking down to veteran Ed Herman for the sign. Now the wind-up and the 1-2 pitch. Low, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Swung on and again wrapped foul at third base. Alex Gramis out of the coaching box to make the pickup on this one. Well, Corral hanging in with 2 out and nobody on base. The right-hander sends it in, and Corral swings and fouls it out of play. To win tonight, we can remain no worse than 2.5 back of the Giants, and that team and the Dodgers had their problems on the road trips respectively completed yesterday. The Dodgers with a loss in Pittsburgh, the Giants having their game suspended because of darkness in Chicago, and we might tell you while on that subject that they plan on resuming that a week from tonight, July the 28th at Candlestick, with a score 9-8 San Francisco, and the Cubs and the Giants still batting in the top of the 8th. Here's a line drive by third baseman Parrish down the left field line. It gets past the left fielder Hutton, and Corral comes coasting into second base with a stand-up double. Hit number 14 for Cincinnati, and Rick Auerbach, with a 172 batting average, is in now with 2 down, and Corral at second. So the Giants and the Cubs will, in fact, complete that game. But they'll be completing it on the Giants' home turf at Candlestick next Friday night prior to the regularly scheduled game. Reds out front 10-1 here in the 8th inning. Auerbach fouls it away, and that's about 3 rows back of the Montreal dugout. Another slow starting night for the Reds, much like Wednesday night's game in Philadelphia was. Start with a whimper and close with a holler. Here's a liner, caught by Spire at shortstop, and that's the inning. The Reds in the 8th get no runs on a hit with 1 left, and after 7.5, Cincinnati leads Montreal 10-1.
Los Angeles may still be interested in hosting the 1984 Olympics, but warns the International Olympic Committee that the private group previously spurned by the IOC is the only game in town. Just 3 days ago, Mayor Tom Bradley recommended withdrawing the bid to host the games. But another telegram from IOC President Lord Killinan was again renewed the city's interest in the Olympics. Bradley wants to explore whether there are reasonable alternatives available to protect the city against financial liability. Before Montreal comes to bat here in the bottom of the 8th, we'll pause again for station identification on the Cincinnati Reds Baseball Network.
This is the American Forces Radio and Television Service.
For Montreal, it'll be Dawson, Valentine, and Unser against Mike Lacoste, who right now stands 6 outs away from going the distance in this, his initial Major League start. He has given Montreal only that run back in the second inning on a total of 5 base hits, and since the second, he has given him a total of 2 hits. A single by Carter in the 4th inning and a single in the 6th inning by Del Unser. Andre Dawson without a hit. He is 0 for 2, 2 fly balls to right, was hit by a pitch in the 1st inning. Only time he's been on. Now the pitch to the plate, and he takes it inside, ball 1. Updating some scores, and we'll have the complete rundown, of course, on our scores and comments program after Joe's Star of the Game show. Swung on and fouled out of play to the right. The end of 4.5 in Game 2 at Philadelphia. The Phillies 3, Houston nothing. Greg Lucinski has pounded his 23rd home run to move into a tie with George Foster. New York 4, Atlanta 3 through 5 complete at Shea Stadium. Starter Preston Hanna has been relieved by Craig Skoke. Here's a fly ball into shallow right. Griffey running hard, and Kenny makes the catch as Junior Kennedy runs right on by him. Junior's gotten a good break back on it, but Griffey plays it for the first out. Nothing in as yet on the West Coast games, although the pitchers have been posted in L.A. It'll be Martinez against Hooten, as we previously announced. In the American League, as Ellis Valentine steps to the plate through 7 full at Cleveland, it is now 10-0 Indians. Mike Paxton throwing the shutout. Yankees are run down to Chicago 4-3 with New York batting in the top of the 6th. Valentine grounds one 2/3. Ray Knight cleanly up with the ball and throws him out. 2 down. Del Unser will be the 2-out batter. At Kansas City, Paul Splittorff is shutting out the Boston Red Sox 5-0. Clint Hurdle has hit a 3-run home run. Milwaukee 3, Texas 2 at the end of 4. And again, the finals, Oakland 7, Toronto 2, and in another first of a twin bill, California knocked off Detroit 4-2. Unser takes a fastball high, ball 1. Mike Lacoste has pitched very, very well in this ball game. Swing and a miss. Got Wayne Twitchell throwing now in the Montreal bullpen. That one fouled straight back and over the screen. Lacoste got him out in order in the 3rd. He did it again in the 5th inning. And is trying to do it here in the 8th. Gotten Dawson a fly ball right. Valentine ground out 3rd. Count advantage against Unser. Ball 1, strike 2. Sights the sign and pitches. And another foul back. Win for the Reds tonight would assure them of no worse than a split in the 12-game seasonal series between the two clubs. One-two pitch. Line drive on the hop, played by Auerbach. He gets his man at first base, and that's all. Nothing across for Montreal in the 8th. 3 up and 3 down. We'll go to the 9th. It'll be Collins, Dreesen, and Lacoste at the end of 8. Reds 10, Montreal 1.
The NBA Indiana Pacers have signed 7-foot center James Edwards, along with rookie Wayne Radford, to multi-year contracts. Edwards was obtained by the Pacers from Los Angeles last year in his rookie season. Radford comes out of Indiana University, where he was the school's career all-time leading field goal marksman at 55.3%. He played on 2 Big Ten Conference championship teams and on the 1976 NCAA championship club. Edwards averaged 19 points a game over the final 2 months of the season. And a record 250 boats are expected to begin the 71st race on Lake Michigan from Chicago to Mackinac Island tomorrow. The fleet will compete on the 333-mile course in 2 divisions, one under the Lake Michigan Yachting Association rating system and the other under the International Offshore Rule for Rating. Ted Turner who piloted a 1977 America's Cup winner, is expected to compete for the second time with his boat, Tenacious.
Reds with a 9-run lead as they come to bat for what they hope will be the final time tonight. Stan Bonson's still on the mound, but we've got a change out in right field for the Expos. Sam Mejias has replaced Ellis Valentine. Dave Collins batting .209, 7 RBIs. Bonson, the third Montreal pitcher. Grimsley went 5 2/3. He is slated to lose his 7th game of the year and his second in 4 starts against Cincinnati without a win. And Jerry Pirtle went a third. The Reds raked him over the coals for 5 hits and 4 runs. Switch hitting outfielder Dave Collins, batting left-handed. Pitch swung on and grounded slowly toward Frias at second. He throws him out. 1 away. Here's Danny Dreesen after grounding out in the second. This young man has come out of his slump in a big way. A single in the 5th, an infield base hit to pick up an RBI in the 6th, and a 2-run home run. Hit way out of here to right center field, his 11th of the year in the 7th. Dreesen has climbed back over the 290 mark at 291, some 6 points from where he started tonight. He takes the first pitch, a fastball down low from Bonson. Swung on, hit to straightaway center field. Going back is Dawson on the warning track. He reaches up and makes the catch. Danny hit that ball a long way. So with 2 out, here's Mike Lacoste. I'm sure Danny had to be wondering when, if ever, we were going to see some right-handed pitching. As Joe mentioned, this is the 3rd straight game on this road trip in which a left-hander has been on the mound. We'll be seeing still another one tomorrow afternoon in Dan Chatsetter. Lacoste looks at a strike. In addition to being 3 outs away from his first major league win, he has contributed with a bat with a run-scoring single in the 6th inning. Swung on, bounced third base foul, 0-2. Stan Bonson rocks and fires, and Lacoste looks at it outside. And strike 3 swinging. Got him with a fastball, and that's the inning. The Reds are out in order, 1, 2, 3. After 8.5 innings of play, Cincinnati 10, Montreal 1.
Let's check the scoreboard. Anything new? First game, California beat Detroit 4-2. That was 11 innings. Starting pitchers for the second game. For the Angels, Dave Frost, and for the Tigers, Jack Billingham. Cleveland leading Seattle 10-0 after 5 innings of play. First game, Oakland beat Toronto 7-2. Second game after 4, Oakland ahead 3-2. After 3.5, the White Sox lead the Yankees 3-1. And the Orioles, in the top of the 7th, have tied things up at Bloomington, Minnesota. So after 6.5, it's the Minnesota Twins 3 and the Baltimore Orioles 3. After 4.5, Kansas City is shutting out Boston 4-0. Clint Hurdle hit a home run. For KC, it was the second with 2 on, his 4th of the year. And after 3 innings of play, Texas ahead of Milwaukee 2-1. National League after 4, Atlanta 4 and the New York Mets 3. First game final, Philadelphia beat Houston 6-1. In the nightcap, after 3 innings of play, the Phillies are ahead of Houston 1-0.
Well, Montreal staring at a great big 9-run deficit as they come up to swing the bats for the final time tonight. Larry Parrish, who owns one of the 5 hits that Mike Lacoste has surrendered, will be first up, followed then by Stan Pappy, who is on deck to hit for the pitcher Bonson, and then the catcher Ed Herman. Parrish has scored the only Montreal run, coming into the second on the Carter sacrifice fly, and he lines one into left center field. That ball splitting Foster and Collins. Collins going to the warning track to pick it up, and Larry Parrish, first pitch hitting, gets a ninth inning double. Stan Pappy will now bat for Stan Bonson. Pappy, a reserve infielder on the Montreal club. Right-handed batter with Parrish out at second base. Batting .282 in limited playing time, and takes a pitch high, ball one. McCoss first shakes off Corral, now gets what he wants and sends it in, and Pappy has had 2 balls and no strikes. Reds on their way to win number 55 on the year, and here in the month of July, they're 11th in 18 games. Ball 3. We may get somebody up and throwing now in the Cincinnati bullpen. Dave Tomlin. Looked like Tomlin was going to start the throw, but now Manny Sarmiento is running down to loosen up, along with Pedro Bourbon. Lacoste behind 3-0 after Parrish doubles to begin the inning. Pappy takes a strike. Sure, Mike feels pretty much assured of winning the game, but I would imagine he would love to be able to say his first Major League win was a complete game victory. There's ball 4, so the first 2 men reach. That is only his second walk allowed. The first didn't come until the 7th inning when he walked Spire. Only struck out 2, and both of them came early. Grimsley in the second and Valentine in the third. Now Ed Herman. Batter and catcher. Herman batting .174. No homers, an RBI. Left-handed batter. He takes it high a ball. Herman appearing in his 11th game for the Expos since coming over from the Houston Astros. 2 men on with nobody out. There's strike 1 call. Parrish at second, Stan Pappy at first base, and Herman ahead now 2 balls and a strike. That pitch was over the plate, a fastball, but low. Got Pedro Bourbon throwing. Down along the left field foul line as Cincinnati leads in the ninth 10-1, but Montreal has put its first 2 men on, Parrish with a double and pinch hitter Pappy with a walk. That's upstairs, 3-1. You have to think at this point that Mike might be getting just a little bit tired. He's thrown quite a number of pitches up to this point. 3-1, and that's fouled off. Full count on Ed Herman. Oh, again, we've had a strong pitch ball game from a starting pitcher at a point in time in which the bullpen badly needed it. In fact, as Sparky pointed out on the main Spark show earlier tonight, he has simply got to start getting some better pitching from his starters the rest of the way. 3-2 pitch. That is grounded by Greason into right field. Here comes Parrish rounding third. Here comes the throw to the plate. Not in time. The run is in. Ball gets away from Corral, and the other 2 runners advance. Pappy to third and Herman to second. a single and an RBI for Ed Herman, and there's going to be an error charge to somebody on the play. You weren't able to pick up who they charged it to, whether it's on the throw from Griffey, on the receiver, Vic Corral. Anyway, right now, Sparky Anderson has come to the mound, and that is going to be all for Mike Lacoste. Mike goes 8+ innings. Gives up 7 base hits. And leads with a 10-2 lead with a couple of men on as Pedro Bourbon comes out of the Reds bullpen and tries to close it out here. Checking now to find out who the error was charged against. Mike Lacoste more than did his job here in Montreal tonight, I'll tell you. Error will be charged on the throw from Ken Griffey. So Lacoste is out. Pedro Bourbon is in. This for Pedro will be his 41st appearance. He has a record of 5 wins and 1 loss with a .406 earned run average. He'll be facing Chris Spire, then Tommy Hutton, and then Pepe Frias. Montreal has scored its 2nd run of the night on the base hit to right field by Herman. Spire, who hit for the cycle last night, has singled, grounded out, and drawn a base on balls in this one. Pedro sets the deal now with a right-handed batting Montreal shortstop. And the pitch to Spire taken low, a ball. Spire takes this one downstairs. 2 balls, no strikes. Harris double, Pappy walked, Herman single to right on a 3-2 pitch. Runners at 2nd and 3rd now with nobody out, and that one is ball 3 high and inside. Well, Pedro has not yet thrown a strike. And there is strike 1 call. Now they've changed the scoring decision. Take away the error from Ken Griffey and charge it to catcher Vic Corral. 3 balls, 1 strike. Spire waits. He swings and he fouls it off, and the count is full. Montreal with 2 hits here in the night, now total 7 in the game. The Reds have had 14, including a home run by Danny Dreesen. 3-2 pitch. Ball 4. Bases are loaded. That'll bring up Tommy Hutton for the 2nd time. He reached on a fielder's choice in the 7th inning after coming in to play left field in the same frame. First time in a Montreal uniform, his very personable native Californian returns to the National League. Bases loaded. Left-handed batter takes a strike on the outside edge. Pappy and Herman belong to the departed Lacoste. Spire, the responsibility of Bourbon. Swung on, ground ball 2nd. Kennedy, Arbach, Dreesen, double play. Run is in. It's 10-3, and there are 2 men out. Pappy comes across with a 2nd run in the 9th as Tommy Hutton bangs into a double play, and now with Herman at 3rd and 2 away, here's Pepe Frias. Frias hitting .333 in very limited playing time. That's the ball to him. Been up to the plate only 9 times the entire season with 3 hits, a double. He's driven in 3 runs, and 2 of them against Cincinnati. 2 balls and no strikes. The only extra base hit coming back in May against the Reds, that was a double. Swung on and popped up in foul ground. Back of third, giving chase Auerbach and Ray Knight, and no play on the ball. 2-1 on Pepe Frias. Pedro making sure Foster's back in his position in left field. George really guarding the line and playing shallow. This one fouled off the back of the plate, 2-2. Herman at third, 2 out, 2 runs across. 2-2 pitch. He struck him out swinging, and this one belongs to the Reds. In the 9th inning, Montreal gets 2 runs on 2 hits, strand 1 runner. There was an error. And the final score tonight, the Reds 10 and the Expos 3. And we'll be back in just a moment. Now the Reds come up with their second victory in 3 tries on this 8-game road trip as they blow it wide open with 6 runs in the 6th inning and then coast to a 10-3 victory over the Montreal Expos. 10 runs, 14 hits, 2 errors, and 8 men left on for the Reds, while Montreal had 3 runs on 7 hits. They played errorless ball and stranded 7. Mike Lacasse, who went 8+ innings before turning over the pitching chores to Pedro Bourbon. In his first major league start, Mike picks up the victory. 8 innings, 7 hits, 3 runs, 2 of them earned. One of those 2 9th inning runs unearned against Lacasse. He struck out a pair and walked 2 and hit 1, and he's a winner in his first major league start as the Reds offense really put it away in a big way with those 6 in the 6th inning and 7 in and 3 in the 7th. 10-14, 2-8 for Cincinnati, 3-7-0-7 for Montreal. Grimsley, the losing pitcher, his record now is 12-7. Game number 2 coming up in an afternoon start tomorrow at 2:15. Freddie Norman will do the pitching for Cincinnati, and another Montreal left-hander, young Dan Schatzeder, will go to the pose for the men of Dick Williams. We'll be on the air with the pregame shows tomorrow on most of these same stations beginning at 1:45 Cincinnati time.